I wonder if they're ever going to reset
Thank you.
the series again, and you'll play in Calvard, like what's going on in Calvard at this moment in time.
Really, I appreciate it more than you know.
And we're voiced again.
It's no big deal, honestly. I agree with Elisa. We're classmates after all, and more than that, we're friends.
Well, this is clearly of great importance to you.
I know you want to protect your people, but that's not the only reason you're doing this, is it?
You got me. It ties back into why I accepted the Lieutenant General's recommendation and entered the Academy too.
I'm so distracted by our horses galloping in unison.
I'm sure each of you feels the same about your own homes, but I love this land with all my heart. The wind racing across the highlands, the vast mountain peaks, the clear blue of the sky, the breathtaking beauty of the rising sun, the melancholy of the sunset, the twinkling of the stars in the twilight. I love everything about this land of Nord. It's part of who I am.
Wow. I guess it hadn't sunk in how much Nord means to you.
I'm certainly attached to Ruhr, but
Did I never turn up the volume of their speaking
I can't
voices?
think of anyone else who would state their love for their homeland so poetically.
If you love it so much, why did you leave it behind? If you truly love Nord, if Nord is such a part of you, what is it that drove you to enroll in a military academy in a foreign land so far away?
I'm not surprised you'd find it strange. To be honest, I'm still not totally sure what compelled me to do it. Back when I was a kid, the Republican Army built a base in the Eastern Plains, and the Imperial Army responded in kind with their watchtower. It's made me more uneasy with every passing year. Years ago, a traveling priest from the Septian Church taught me all about the history of the continent.
That guy looks fancy.
One thing that stood out to me was just how many lives have been lost during the conflicts between the major powers. Another major theme was just how profound of an impact the Orbital Revolution had on people's lives. Even the concepts of time and distance have changed so much. In effect, the Orbital Revolution shrunk the world.
The concept of time has changed? Distance, sure, because it allowed railways and whatnot, but
It
time?
made me realize a sad truth, one that kind of scares me even now. That there was no guarantee my homeland could stay at peace forever. That one day, it might be drawn into outsiders' conflicts and be occupied and redistricted into oblivion.
Man, so the Nord Highlands is Crossbell 2.0, but with less valuable resources.
I can't believe you were thinking about such weighty things even as a kid.
So then, you joined the Academy in order to learn more about the outside world that posed a threat to your homeland?
Yeah, something along those lines. When I realized how afraid I was, I knew I couldn't close my eyes. I wanted to do something, anything, to protect this land. As luck would have it, I met the Lieutenant General. He's the one who told me about Thor's military academy. One thing led to another, he offered me a recommendation, and before I knew it, I took him up on his offer. So there I was, green as grass, heading off to study abroad despite having no clue what life in the Empire was like. Thinking back on how it all came together, what you said is probably what I was thinking back then.
Honestly, I've yet to hear a student offer a more galvanizing reason than yours for enrolling at the academy.
I have to agree. I don't know too many people who love their home so much that they'd leave it behind to find a way to protect it.
It's not a sentiment I can imagine many Erebonians feeling, that's for sure. But I think I finally understand. Elisa? Just an idle thought. But having heard Gaius pour his heart out to us, there's no way we can just walk away from this.
Poor Emma keeps getting her face hit by Elisa's hair
Not
over
having
and
the people
over
of Nord
again.
gave us such a warm welcome and treated us like family. Indeed, I couldn't have asked for more.
Agreed. We'll get to the bottom of what's going on here and stop Ward from breaking out.
Nord may not be our home, but it's still an important neighbor. I'll do what I can to aid you.
Thanks, all of you. Really, thank you.
can't be helped. You can see shell damage everywhere. It's even worse than I feared. I mean, the tower is still standing, so that's a plus. They've confirmed casualties too. I didn't think I'd ever have to see anything like this. You enrolled in a military academy, though. What do you think the military is there for? As students at a military academy, things like this are always within the realm of possibility. Yeah, exactly. Although I hardly expected my first sight of such devastation to be the spark that ignites war with Calvard. This may be too much for students like us to handle. No. We've all been in situations that looked impossible before, haven't we? And every time, we've come through. We just have to stay calm and think. I'm sure we can do something here, too. You're right. True. We should focus on doing what we can. Whatever we decide to do, we need to get a better grasp of the situation. Yeah, let's find who's in charge and get their permission to start an investigation. I see. If Lieutenant General Vander has given you his permission, I see no reason to refuse. Thank you. However, I want to make it clear that armed conflict with Calvard could begin at any moment. We've got our hands full staying on guard for any potential threat from the east. I'll permit you to speak with the soldiers here, but don't get in the way of them doing their duties. Understood? Okay, let's get started. We should start by speaking with the soldiers and assessing the damage. That seems wise. When we've gathered all the information we need, we can start piecing it together. Right, let's go. Oh, not too bad. Only like 30 minutes of cutscenes. It's fine. Hold on. It was really bothering me when we were galloping on horses. Man, the sound effects are significantly lower than the voices. The galloping horses were just so loud. They were drowning out the voice acting for me. We'll try this. See how that goes. Hey. What's up? Roan, why'd you go and die on me? Wait. Zatz lived? How did Zatz live? He seems pretty down. Can't say I don't understand how he feels, though. It was right when the shifts changed. Roan came out to relieve me, and I was chattering away with him like always. That's when the first shell hit us. Must have been around 3 in the morning. So it started around 3 then. Right in the middle of the night. Or right when I go to bed, maybe. I was on lookout. I should have noticed something was off, but that explosion completely took me by surprise. I was so sure nothing would ever happen out here that when something actually did, I was totally useless. If I just paid a bit more attention, if I'd been a better soldier, Roan might still be with us now. How are you not even injured, though? You were right where the shell hit. It's not your fault. None of us could have predicted that something like this would happen. You can hardly blame yourself for a lack of vigilance after being stationed in a peaceful area like this for so long. They attacked in the dead of night, knowing your guard would be down. I wonder if it really was the Republican armies doing after all. We need more information before we can say for sure. No, I don't think it was them. There was something else that happened before we came under attack. We heard an explosion coming from the Republican Army's base. When we looked, we saw smoke pouring from it. So the Republican Army's base was hit first. What? We knew that both bases were attacked, but did both attacks really happen around the same time? If that's so, it's unlikely that either army was responsible. Who is responsible then? We should keep this in mind as we piece things together. Okay, basically the same time, but it sounds... He only saw smoke. Could be a lot of reasons. That's fair. Maybe they're having a barbecue. How's the situation with the Republican Army? Looks like they're really hustling over there. We've confirmed a number of armored vehicles entering and exiting the area. We've heard their base got hit pretty badly too. And even from over here, it sure looks that way. The Lieutenant General said that the Republican base got hit at least as hard as the Watchtower, if not harder. But we believe they were responsible for that as well. They need an excuse to attack us, and that sure as heck looks like one. Why would you leap to that conclusion, though? Oh, of course they were willing to kill their own people and sabotage a base that must have cost a lot of money to build just so that they could frame us. Do you really think that's true? That much damage seems awfully excessive. Yeah, it does. They probably just got overzealous with the explosives. Okay. You're kind of dumb, huh? Doesn't make much difference either way. If they're brazen enough to attack us, we'll blow them back across the border. The soldiers here all seem to have their doubts, but without any hard evidence, we're not going to be able to convince them of anything. We should reconsider the possibility that this was a deliberate attack, a deliberate act of sabotage by Calvard's forces. This is awful. It really is. It looks like they got hit hard. And to think there were casualties. You know the Imperial Army isn't going to sit and twiddle their thumbs after suffering an attack like this. They have their image to uphold after all. Hey, looks like most of the damage is concentrated on the south side of the building. You think whoever carried out the attack could have done it from the Highlands? Seems very likely. But where on the plains could they launch an attack like that from? Well, the Highlands are incredibly vast. We'd need some kind of clue to even know where to start looking. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to find something here that'll point us in the right direction. Can I speak to you? I lost some good friends last night. I'm still having trouble getting over it. Roan might have been the hardest working soldier here. Can't believe he's just gone. Please do what you can with your investigation. Will do, sir. I was lucky enough to escape with barely a scratch, but it wasn't really luck. It's because Roan protected me with his life. Why, Roan? I'll never be half the man you were. Why didn't you just save yourself? I don't know what to say. We should just focus on our investigation. That's all we can do for the time being. We need to reestablish our surveillance of the Republican Army as soon as possible. From now on, we of the 3rd Armored Division will be stationed here to take over surveillance duties. First and foremost, though, we need to get a thorough understanding of what's going on here. We need to focus all our vigilance towards the east. You have my permission to conduct your investigation and speak with my men, but stay out of their way as much as you can. Very interesting. So we can clearly see that most of the damage is to the south of the building, or the southern part of the building, but they're so convinced that the attack must have come from the east. Seems to be a lot going on over there with the Republican Army. I can only assume they're prepping for an offensive. Let them try. They hit us, we'll hit them back harder. Okay. What is this last exclamation mark? Oh. What is this? Looks like a fire extinguisher. Huh, is this... What's up, Elisa? Or is this a shell that just is masquerading as a fire extinguisher? Is there something unusual about that scrap metal? I knew it! This is a mortar shell manufactured by the Reinford Company. Are you sure? Yep. I've seen them before on the assembly line. There are only a couple models capable of firing this kind of shell. That would suggest that the mortar used to fire it was also made by the Reinford Company. But if we assume that's true, it seems much less likely that the Republic was responsible. True. Why would the Republican Army use a weapon made in the Empire? It doesn't make much sense to me. Even if we account for deception, it seems unlikely that Calvard would go this far to conceal their involvement. Though considering the stakes, we can't entirely rule out the possibility. Still, this might prove to be an important clue to solving this mystery. I think that's all the info we can gather here. Dang it, I'm not even a police officer or detective anymore, and I'm still having to be a detective. I'm not getting paid for this. I think that's all the info we can gather here. I think so too. Now, we need to analyze what we've learned. First, we should establish a good picture of what was happening when the attack occurred. That seems like the best place to start. So first of all, what time did the actual attack on the watchtower happen? It was 3 a.m. Zatz told us that. I am so good. It was 3 a.m. Yep, that's what the guard told us. But that wasn't all that was going on then. That's right, the Republican Army's base also came under attack. And according to the Lieutenant General, they suffered even greater damage than what happened here. I think we can safely discount the possibility that the Republican Army bombed their own forces. Then... So we're so willing to toss that out. But these other soldiers can't. But there's no evidence that the Imperial Army launched an attack either. All we know is that both attacks happened and both sides took heavy damage. However, as Elisa said, we have no evidence to suggest that either side was responsible. If we accept that as fact, the most likely scenario is that the responsibility lies with another party entirely. So you think a third party is working behind the scenes to provoke both countries into starting a war? Tensions between the Empire and the Republic are always high. Is it, Mayor What's-His-Face? Is Mayor What's-His-Face behind this? I bet he is, that scumbag. Tensions between the Empire and the Republic are always high, but compared to other areas of similar political value, the Nord Highlands have always been peaceful. I can conceive of no reason either country would have decided to break that peace last night. I agree. If anything, it seems that the negatives would outweigh the positives for both parties. If this were Crossbell, it might be a different story, but here... Now that you mention it, we found something else odd about the attack on the watchtower, didn't we? Something that seems to point to a third party's involvement. Something else odd about the attack on the watchtower? I bet she's referring to this. The time it happened. It's definitely not the time it happened. It's either the weapon that was used or the area that was damaged, because it is weird that the damage is to the south. But if it's like a missile, maybe it's a missile that you could like control, like a remote control missile. So I am going to assume it's the weapon that was used. because the shell was from Erebonia. You're talking about the mortars used for the attack, right? Exactly. It looks like the orbital mortars they used in the attack were an old Reinford model. And I, for one, find it pretty unlikely that the Republican army is packing Erebonian-made weapons. You don't know that. Maybe this is like a Tony Stark type situation. You don't know. Indeed, they have little reason to be, considering the Republic has its own major orbital technology manufacturer, the Verne Company, as I recall. Maybe the Reinford Company weapons are cheaper. Yeah. The Verne Company is responsible for manufacturing most of the arms used by the Republican Army. Then there's the fact that the mortar used here is old. The Imperial Army hasn't used this model for years. I've heard that military surplus sometimes makes its way onto the black market. Oh? The Schwartz auction? And ends up in the hands of mercenaries. Jaegers? Knowing that, it seems unlikely that either army chose to use it to cover their tracks. Quite. However, there is a far more pressing question we need to answer. What do you mean? Ah, I know where you're going. I don't. We need to know where the attack was launched from in the first place. Oh, never mind, that makes sense. That's going to be difficult to work out. But without that vital detail, all our speculation thus far is for naught. If we intend to avert a war, we need more than speculation. We need conclusive evidence. Agreed? But the Highlands are far too vast to just strike out searching blindly. Especially with the Lieutenant General's deadline rapidly approaching. How is he going to force us to leave? What if he can't find us? Actually, we may not have to start our search blind. If Elisa and Gaius will lend me a hand, I may be able to help. Huh? Are you going to use the power of physics, or are you going to use the power of witchcraft? Both are viable. What do you have in mind? If I can factor the location of the damage together with the speed and trajectory of the mortar shells, okay, the power of math it is, and then take into account the Highlands' winds, I may be able to estimate the area from which the mortar was fired. Potentially. Anyway. Are you serious? It sounds easier said than done. Random side note, in my physics class in high school, when we were learning about trajectory and whatever, our teacher brought in his PlayStation and like Call of Duty, and we all had to like take turns like learning about like bullet drop and whatever to fire things. It was fantastic. I'll do what I can. Are you familiar with the specifics of the shell that was used? I think so. It's an old model, but I should be able to give you some rough data. That should be plenty. Anyway, let's have another look at those damaged areas and start our calculations. Please come with me, everyone. Right?